Welcome to our podcast, Talk to Me, Sister. I'm Cathey.
And I am Sarah, and we are twin sisters documenting our surrogacy journey, discussing women's health, motherhood, and all the details that led us here.
Our mission is to not only educate and inform, but to spread joy and hope through our story. Thanks for following along. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. So, guys, we are doing a two-part series discussing in detail our IVF experience. But before we dive into this, Cathey and I want to give you an update so far. We just announced on Instagram and to all of our friends about our surrogacy journey and that Cathey is my surrogate and that we're having a baby boy in August. And I am just literally cried the other night just reading everybody's comments, Cathey, on your post and my post, and just we feel like over flooded with love. It's been really sweet.
It's really overwhelming for sure. I don't know sometimes how to say like thank you, because I'm like, thank you, I'm so excited for Sarah, but also people are also like, Cathey, this is amazing, and it is, but also I'm like, well, I don't know.
I know
so much. It's hard to in a way get praise. I don't know if that sounds like an annoying thing for me to say, but I'm like,
no, not at all.
Of course, like I wasn't like, of course there's nothing else in the whole world that I would have done. So, but it's so sweet to have people's encouragement. You never really know what people are going to say.
I know. And honestly, I think that people are just so overwhelmed that you would do this for me. I think that's why they're like, Cathey, this is amazing. But
yes.
I feel like it's okay for you to feel like, how do I react to this? Because it's not like they're saying, congratulations on your baby. They're saying, this is so amazing. You're doing this for somebody. And so we've both never done this before. So, we're, people are like, congratulations. And also like that Cathey's like, this is incredible. And so I think that we're both we've never done this before. So
yeah,
we're just,
for sure.
We're trying to receive the love.
Yeah, it really does help. I was at the gym the other day when you posted, and I had to move from the treadmill to like the bike so that I could like read, and I was so teary, and just was really sweet to have people's encouragement. But we haven't done a great job as we've recorded, because we've had so much we want to talk about. Mm-hmm. We haven't done a great job at keeping people updated on where we are in our pregnancy and how you're doing, how I'm doing. So I thought we would do that real quick before we got started in our IVF episode.
Let's do it. So, okay, I'm trying to look at the calendar. I'm going to say that's hilarious. Are we 14 weeks?
No, we're 16. We're 16.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Time is flying. See, this is crazy, because people listening as I'm the intended parent, it's my biological baby, but I'm not feeling the growth or like seeing it every day. So I'm like literally losing track, because life is busy, and you and Cathey, you and I talk every day, but how is it 16 weeks already? That's wild.
Know. Well, if it makes you feel better, I have also lost track.
Okay. That's that does make me feel better. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible mother.
No, you're not. And I do, like, we see each other pretty often, not every day, but we talk every day. We see each other often. So yeah, it would probably be harder for other surrogates and intended parents who don't see or live in the same city, because a lot of people live in different states or even different countries who do this. And so yeah, no, I have also lost track. I told my neighbor last week that I was 14 weeks, and she was like, well, you have a pretty good bump for 14 weeks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know.
I know you were over last week. And actually Richard said this the other night. He was like, it didn't really feel real until I saw Cathey's bump when she was standing in our kitchen last week. She was like, I know, it was really cute. He was like, I mean, you could really see him. You could really, and I'm like, yeah, he's in there.
He's really in there. And he feels like he's growing so good. But yeah, then I thought it is big for 14 weeks. And I was like, oh, I think I'm closer to 16. And I was like, no, on Saturday, I'll be 17. So then I felt better about my bump. I was like, okay.
Okay. Anyway, but it is your third pregnancy, and don't you show quicker? Is that
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I was thinking when you just said the people using surrogates out of town, because before we decided to use you, we like I talked to a few surrogacy agency just for the heck of it. And they were out of North Carolina. So I'm like, if
Mm,
I had a surrogate in North Carolina, I'd be like, you're not going to see them every week or even every month. I'd be like, can you send me a picture every day of your belly? Like, how,
yeah,
I'm
you'd
sure
have
there's this
to
thing where you feel like, how am I contributing? I feel disconnected. You know what I'm saying? So,
for sure.
I feel really lucky that I can just say, Cathey, come over so I can, you know, kiss your bump.
For sure. I know. I'm glad. I'm so glad about that. So
Um,
I at this point am feeling well. We'll be 17 weeks this weekend. I'm feeling like I'm on that second trimester, like energy bump. I'm still taking my nausea meds at night, but overall, I'm feeling really good.
that's so good. I'm so glad you're over that hump.
Me too. Me too.
Um, okay, so Cathey and I, so we both experienced med cycles, and each of us had a critical role in IVF. So we want to dive deep into the details. It's going to be a two-part episode. Like we mentioned before, a recap. This is my baby boy, my biological son. It was just transferred into Cathey's uterus. If you missed the episode on egg retrieval and embryo creation, go back and listen to that. That's a key part of the first part of IVF. We talk a lot about prerequisites, prepping my body, fertility, nutrition, a lot of good food for thought in those episodes. Today, we will discuss further our experience and our personal research with IVF. We were both really new to it on both of our parts. We will also answer questions we both had as we started IVF, being new to the whole process. Questions specifically surrounding a natural cycle, which Cathey will talk a little bit more about. It's the method we used. This means we followed Cathey's normal ovulation. So we used stimulators and oral meds to support the natural cycle, but we didn't go the general IVF protocol route where you have like 20 weeks of shots and all that. So we'll get into that. So let's start off with a basic question. What is IVF? It's a good question. I didn't really know. We had a friend recently, as the two of us together, it's when we were doing the photos of our baby announcement, we had our really good friend say, okay, this is a wild, crazy story. This is awesome. But so, like, how did this happen? And you could see all over her face. She didn't even, I said, oh, well, we did IVF and then we did transfer. And she was like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what that is or how you do it. Or, when there's a surrogate involved, how does that work? So it's a little mind boggling. Science and medicine is so incredible. But yeah, so what is IVF?
Yes, I'm going to answer it for us.
Yes.
But yeah, and I do want to mention too, as we get started with this episode is more on the specifics of what kind of cycle we used. Our next episode is going to be our specific journey. So a little more personal. This is more of the details and kind of the science behind what we did. So IVF is in vitro fertilization. It's a complex series of procedures that helps with fertility, obviously, but it also can help prevent genetic problems. So people who are screening for certain genetic conditions may want to use it. And of course, it assists in the conception of a child. So during IVF, mature eggs are collected, which we talked about Sarah's egg retrieval journey in that previous episode. And they are fertilized by sperm in the lab. The fertilized egg becomes an embryo and is transferred into a uterus. Now, generally, if an intended parent, like a mother who is carrying their own child, is doing IVF, that could happen simultaneously if you wanted it to. So it could happen within like a 3-week process where you have egg retrieval, you fertilize in a lab, you do some genetic testing, and then when mom's body is ready, it's transferred in. Or you can do it like we did, which is you separate the process in different stages. So we did it where Sarah did egg retrieval and got embryos even before they screened me as a surrogate, because we didn't know if Sarah was going to get embryos.
Yay.
And we did. She did.
We did. I know. I honestly had to compartmentalize it. I didn't know what we were going to do. I was like, first things first, got to get an embryo.
Well, they were smart. The fertility clinic we used guided us a lot, and they said,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want you to spend the money on screening a surrogate and getting her prepped and prepared for that continuous cycle if you won't get an embryo. And they're not saying that like to be Debbie Downers, they're just being smart at the procedure.
That's good advice. Yes.
So it can happen quickly if you want it to. For us, it took about 10 months. So Sarah started, this is one of the questions we have, and I kind of went forward a little bit, but one of the questions we had was, how long does IVF take? So it depends again on your journey, but for us, it took about 10 months. So Sarah started her egg retrieval, was it June?
It was June, yeah. Well, actually, I had my first appointment with Nashville Fertility in February. That's how long it took us to pull the trigger. We had our consultation. But yes, I did. I started the cycle and did the retrieval or egg retrieval and everything. That was June.
That was June 2020. So I will say between February and June 2020, you guys know what happened. It was COVID.
I was going to say, now that I have like, it's like trauma that I've blocked out. No, I'm kidding. You're right. That did delay us.
You don't have to be kidding about that. You know,
I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not kidding. Yes. I probably would have done it sooner, and pulled the trigger quicker, but yes, COVID
happened. And honestly, we were at a good place. I remember we were even on a walk. You had come over and we were walking and they called. This was like when all of us were out of quarantine, just like wearing masks, but we were on a walk and they were like, hey, we're still only seeing, a few people at a time. We'll call you next month. And we were like, no problem. That's fine. But I really felt heavy hearted for those moms who were so ready to go and have those embryos ready, because it's so hard to wait. And you were in a process that we felt okay. We felt okay about the waiting,
right? But
a lot of people weren't during that season. So
hard.
So it took us about 10 months from the time of the time of egg retrieval to our transfer date. So it was about June to December. So we've encouraged people before. We said, this is an okay process if you're prepared for the hurry, wait, hurry, wait of the IVF process.
Right. And I think expectations are key, right? I think that it can feel really discouraging, but knowing ahead of time that it's a process and it's like you said, hurry up and wait. But
right. So the great thing about IVF, you get there. And the great thing about it is that it is the most effective form of assisted reproductive technology. So and parents like you can have their own biological kids, which is just so fantastic. You can use, your eggs, Richard's sperm, and you can have a baby, or you can use an anonymous donor. Sometimes people need egg donors, or you can even adopt embryos. We've talked about that snowflake adoption process. So during the process, you can implant or transfer more than one embryo. It can often result in multiples or twins because it's so successful. It's often that if you put 2 embryos in, you get twins. So our clinic does not do that because it is high risk to have multiples. And plus, you guys chose not to have twins, right?
I would have blessed and received twins, but yes, that was not our end goal. And our fertility clinic was like, that's a high risk pregnancy. And so we don't try for high risk pregnancies.
Right. And one embryo can split, but the chances are very low. It's like a 1% chance that it can split. So it would have been crazy, but yes, it didn't.
Right. Hey guys, we are excited to share with you our new partnership with Your Superfoods. Not only do they have great tasting product, but they are on a mission to help improve people's health through the power of plants. I fell in love with their superfood and plant protein mixes after I was diagnosed and started my lifestyle change. One of the founders is also a cancer survivor, which is why I came across their story. I make a ton of smoothies and my daughter Charlotte loves them too. Your Superfoods is 100% plant-based, no sweeteners, no soy, no dairy, gluten-free, and non-GMO.
So you can purchase with our code SISTER15 and you will receive 15% off your purchase, any purchase, not just your first one. So go to yoursuper.com and use the code SISTER15, SISTER15 for 15% off your order.
Go grab your superfoods. So, Cathey, once we had embryos and it was your turn to start your IVF journey as a part of our process, we discussed a lot about all the meds. You and I had some side conversations. I mean, you kind of knew what I was doing for my med cycle for egg retrieval, but as we know, like your part of the IVF process was going to be a lot more involved as far as shots and everything after the fact. So explain your thought process to the nurses and what we decided on together. Honestly, I didn't know you could really do a natural cycle with IVF. And that was new to me. And that was exciting for me because I was excited for you. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So I've always been really sensitive to hormones. I have very rarely taken a birth control pill, even like a non-hormonal option of birth control, because it just makes me like an angry person.
Oh. It does that to some people. That's okay.
It does.
You adjust.
I'm like a really happy, chill person, and the hormones don't go well with my body.
I could never do the pill. I was same. Yeah.
And so I just felt like I will do anything it takes to get this baby here. And I know that IVF is involved and you have to take a lot of hormones. So one thing I did was I did join like a Facebook group. It was like Tennessee Intended Parents and Surrogates. So I joined that group. I never, especially on Facebook, like I don't have it on my phone. So I just get on if I'm on my computer. So I didn't check it often, but I did see that people were talking about natural cycles every once in a while, not often. So I looked at the conversation and kind of got comfortable with it. But again, I know that I take things people say on these Facebook groups very lightly. I actually don't follow. I actually unfollowed that group for a while because it was giving me anxiety of like all the people getting pregnant and all the things. And I was like, all the things that you can do and all the things you shouldn't do. And I was like, you know what? I know my body. I know what I need to be doing. What I need to be doing is not reading online that much. And so I'm going to unfollow. But I did learn that from that group. And I have since joined back in and check them out every once in a while. So I do think it's good sometimes to have community, especially if you do feel lonely in the process.
Absolutely.
So I had seen that. And so on our very first doctor visit at the fertility clinic, it was actually, I think it was technically my screening where me and you were there for like 4 hours and they did my blood work and an ultrasound and a pelvic exam and all of this screenings that took place to say that I was a good candidate to be your surrogate. We were just really crossing our fingers. And so we met with our fertility doctor that day. And I said, I think I know your answer, but I would love to know that if all my tests come back today good, like if my hormones look good, my thyroid looks good, my physical exam looks okay, is there a reason I need to take all of the extra hormones? And I thought she was going to say, well, this is an expensive procedure, an expensive experiment, which you have said before, and which I had read on this group, that a lot of intended parents, so a lot of people in your shoes, Sarah, want to just do what works. And what works is often that general IVF protocol. And so I was expecting her to say that, but she didn't blink an eye. She explained the process and the pros and cons of it, but she said, we have a protocol called the letrozole protocol. It's a more natural cycle. You still take oral meds. You still have to come in for monitoring, but instead of programming your cycle, so programming your body to ovulate and programming it to be ready for embryo, we will follow your natural ovulation cycle and your natural kind of period cycle and transfer when your body is naturally doing it. And I'll explain the details for people who want to know. But she actually said, she said, does that sound good? And we said, okay. And we never looked back. And also, I want to shout out to you too. The whole time, even with your experience with meds, you always said, I want to do the lowest, the lowest, the lowest.
Yes.
And it has worked for both of us.
It has. And I think I went into it day one saying, I'm going to trust this process. I am going to trust that our bodies will do what they're meant to do. And that is so hard. And honestly, I did have doubts. I'm human. But I loved that the doctor, the nurse, and the doctor said, or when she said that this was an option, I love that she made, me as an intended parent, but also you, but me and as an intended parent, she made me feel like she was confident in this. It wasn't like she was like, well, we do have this option, but it's not very effective. Like, it helped that she explained it thoroughly. She said they've had success in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like, she made me feel confident.
Yes,
and
I agree. She said, especially for you, you haven't had any fertility issues in the past, and Sarah has good embryos, and you are a great candidate for this. Like, she was really encouraging. We never looked back.
yes, I'm so glad we did.
Yes. Yeah. So, if people who are going through IVF and interested in the letrozole protocol, I'm going to explain it just a little bit. And it's called the letrozole protocol. Letrozole is also Femara. So, for those who are familiar with taking Femara, it's a stimulator of the ovaries. And it was formed by Dr. Lisa Hansard. So thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, girl.
I took Femara too. So people that are doing the first part of IVF too, that was a drug that I took to do egg retrieval. It made my skin fabulous too. That was just a side note.
Often people too who are trying IUI will also take Femara or letrozole. So anyway, what you do on this cycle is, again, you're following your natural cycle. So you wait until your period starts naturally. And then, so when your period starts, that's day 1 of your cycle. So when you get to day 3 of your cycle, you're brought into the doctor's office and you have an ultrasound, and they're checking for cyst. They're making sure you have no cyst on your ovaries, because letrozole is a stimulator of your ovary, and it is more likely to produce cyst on your ovaries. So they want to make sure you're not already having those or already at high risk. So if you have no cyst on your ovaries, you can start taking letrozole from day 3 to day 7 of your cycle. So you take it for 4 days. I took 2 tablets per day, but your doctor tells you exactly what to take. And then you go back in day 10 or 11 of your cycle, and they check again on your ultrasound. They'll check your endometrial lining. So they'll see how thick your endometrial lining is. They'll look at your ovaries and see if their follicles are maturing. So you have taken the letrozole for 4 days of your cycle. They're looking at day 10 or 11 to see if your body is close to ovulation. If your body is close to ovulation, on that day, they'll plan the trigger shot. So if if you're close to ovulation, if your endometrial lining is greater than 7 millimeters and your follicles are greater than 18 millimeters. So they'll look specifically, like measure you and see, are you close to ovulation? If these all look good, they will plan your trigger shot. Oh, I forgot one thing. They also take your blood. They look at your LH, which is your luteinizing hormone. And that usually surges, like you get a spike in it when you are ovulating. It's actually the hormone that ovulation sticks will test for. You pee on the ovulation sticks.
Yes.
So they'll check your LH, they'll check your hormones. If it looks like you're close to ovulating, they will plan your trigger shot. You take your trigger shot, and then you plan your transfer for 7 days later. So if you had a trigger shot, the trigger shot will pretty much force your body to ovulate. So if you're taking your trigger shot on day, 10, 11, 12, then your transfer would be, day 17 of your cycle.
Yes. And you and I knew that your body ovulates early. And I feel like at this point we were bugging the heck out of all the nurses, because at this point before the trigger shot, I mean, you were going every day, right, to get checked. We were kind of like teetering on the edge. What I felt like.
I think we weren't going until the transfer. So this is kind of a spoiler of what happened. But once I got on the letrozole, my body ovulated like a freight train.
Yes.
Like, so I started the letrozole day 3 and day 7. So I did that first part. Everything looked good. I had no cysts. I started the letrozole. I went in day 10 to check my endometrial lining, to check my blood work, and I had already had an LH surge. So I had already started that ovulation process, and it was a big LH surge. Like, it was too fast and too furious. My endometrial lining was like
Yeah, I
9
was gonna
already.
say the
Like,
letrozole, the Femara protocol for you was like your ovaries were like, hey, it
oh
was
my gosh. Yes, actually, they were. I went in to get checked and they checked my follicles after I had been on the letrozole the first time. And they were like, wow, if you were trying to get pregnant on your own, you would probably have quadruplets. Like, both sides of my ovaries were like
SOS.
really, yeah, they were like ready.
Okay, so we don't want to spoil part 2 of this episode where we talk about our personal journey, and like we don't want to spoil it. But going back to the letrozole protocol, I want to ask you if you felt like, I mean, obviously we knew that it like crazily like stimulated your ovaries, but did you feel like you had any major side effects? I know you said you were on a support Facebook group where people were telling their experiences and the natural cycle versus like, the 20 weeks of shots or whatever. But did your side effects, I mean, were they minimal compared to those other people?
Yes, I think so. And I will say, like, this is the cycle we use. So if we're not spoiling anything to let you know it
Yeah,
worked.
it works.
It
If you're a
worked.
good candidate,
It
it's not going to work for everybody, but it really did work.
Yes, not indicated for everybody, but it worked for us. It was great. My body really responded. And so we missed that first month. We had to wait till my second cycle, but then we knew exactly. We started monitoring more closely. The great thing about IVF, even with a natural cycle, is that they can program it. I took something to slow down my ovulation the second time. I took something to thicken my endometrial lining. And so there's even with a natural cycle, there's still a lot you can do to support a pregnancy to happen. So it was great. I had very minimal side effects. I really felt crampy. I could feel a lot of bloat, especially after the stimulators. Like, I just needed to wear sweatpants. It kind of felt like you were on your period or
Mm-hmm.
about to start your period, like the entire month. But I really didn't have side effects. I didn't have, mood swings or spotting or, issues with even just like the mental weight of all the shots and all the meds. Like, that's what is really hard with IVF, is just the amount of keeping track of all of the things that you have to take. So it was easy for me. I said, okay, I take my letrozole, I take my estrase, which is estrogen. I take my progesterone, and that was about it. So it was easy on the mental load of me, along with like being a mother and, doing the
Totally.
things that I do on my normal life. So I think the mental load of it is much easier than a general IVF cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I did worry, like when we were kind of in the 2-week wait where we were waiting to see if our transfer took.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, dang, should we have done the real deal? Like, should we have done more? And obviously it worked, so we didn't have to. But I do remember feeling worried. Should we have done more? Should we have done more? And so my encouragement is, that our bodies do really take over. And there's still a lot of medication and hormonal support on a letrozole protocol.
That's exactly right.
And I think it saved
I
you
was going to
money in
say,
terms of side
I was
effects.
going to say, I think we saved on more meds. I mean, we didn't have to buy all those shots for
Definitely.
20 weeks.
No, we didn't.
Because that gets pricey. So that's a plus.
That is a plus. It was a plus. And I do want to clarify that when you are doing IVF in kind of the general form, I think that you do about 6 weeks of shots before transfer, and then you take shots through your first trimester, which is why we say 20 weeks of
Mm-hmm.
shots. So it's about 6 weeks where before transfer that you are programming your body to ovulate and get ready at a specific time for that transfer.
That's right. So, guys, we wanted to give you this kind of more technical background before we start going to our personal IVF cycle story and our transfer journey together. We wanted to do just kind of like the basic knowledge of IVF and what kind of we did with the letrozole protocol. We hope this was helpful for anyone researching a natural cycle. The goal for this episode was just to talk about the natural cycle. And I do want to shout out to my IVF warriors. Cathey and I have a very specific journey because she is my surrogate, but we do understand, being frustrated with our bodies, especially me, when they don't do what you want them to do. If you're like me, and Cathey can attest to this as well, we both like control. And so I just want to shout out to my IVF warriors that I want to challenge you to try to give up the control, give the control to your doctors, give the control, to God, he already knows the future. Cathey, you always tell me to give myself permission to rest because I try to tense up and like control the situation, and I get disappointed when it doesn't happen when I want it to happen. And I think that's so important for me to say, and also important for me to hear when you always tell me that, Sarah, give yourself permission to rest, because sometimes resting is just as good for the body, if not more, than moving and getting things done. And so I hope that we can leave you with that little piece of encouragement.
Preach to that. And I do want to say another reason that we wanted to do this is because when we were researching all of our options for IVF, we didn't really have a roadmap. And so we are just hoping that this provides more information for people who are seeking, like we were. And it's a great encouragement to be your own advocate. Like I said, sometimes like I've said in previous episodes, we just sometimes follow what our doctor's advice was. And if I had not asked on that first appointment with our IVF doctor, hey, why do I have to take all these hormones? I don't know if she ever would have brought it up because she had to leave the room and bring back in like more paperwork.
She probably wouldn't have. You would have probably, they were so amazing, but you would have been just another patient, maybe.
Right.
Following.
Well, and sometimes we get nervous to ask. And that's what I would encourage people. It's like, they will always say, no, I don't think this is best for you. And if they had said that to me, I would have said, okay, well, at least I asked. I felt good about asking, and so it never hurts to ask if you're wondering.
Preach.
So
yeah.
Then you can know, again, like I tell you, it's okay to rest, but it's also good to control what you can. And sometimes in the waiting, when you're wondering, oh, what if I had done this? And what if I had done that? It helps you to say, well, I've rested. I've eaten well. I asked my doctor all the questions. I don't have regret about that. It's like you can control some things, even just by asking and researching and having that door be closed too.
Yeah. Control is control as far as being your own advocate. But I was just mainly talking about just timing. I think a lot of times I saw this quote recently that was like, delays don't mean denials. And I thought that was really perfect because sometimes, like you and I, oh, shoot, wow, you ovulated way too quickly. We have to wait another month. So I think that's just the hurry up and wait process with IVF. But everybody has a different journey, and we hope that you guys found this really informative and learned a little bit more about the natural cycle. So if you have any questions that maybe Cathey didn't answer or that I didn't answer, feel free to email us. We can check our email and answer questions on the next episode. Thanks for listening, and we would love if you took a few minutes just to rate us or review us and share our story. So we will talk to you soon, sisters.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. This podcast is brought to you by Anchor. This is the platform that we use to record and produce our podcast.
Guys, we are not tech savvy. I was so overwhelmed thinking about how to start a podcast, but we knew that it was the best and easiest way for us to share our story. And Anchor has been so easy to use and really intuitive for anyone, no matter how comfortable you are with podcasting or technology. They simplify it for you.
So you can record your episodes, add music, activate sponsorship, and distribute your podcast to Apple, Spotify, and all other listening platforms, all through Anchor.
So download the Anchor app for free or visit anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started.
Have fun.